Welcome to C-Suite Blueprint Radio, conversations with communications strategy consultant and author Ed Barks and his guests. C-Suite Blueprint Radio serves as a practical resource for senior communications and government relations executives who counsel their C-Suite leaders. Our goal? To help you achieve your business and public policy goals. Now, here's your host, Ed Barks.
When strategy is the topic or a crisis arises, who gets called into the corner office for their advice? The lawyers, issue experts, financial executives? Sure. Sadly, there is one component often missing: senior communications officers. Stephanie Craig considers that a potentially fatal flaw. Stephanie is a crisis and reputation strategist. She has served as a trusted advisor to former first ladies, members of Congress, and C-suite executives. She now leads the consulting practice of Kith, a crisis management company, where she helps clients prepare for crises, mitigate risk, and rebuild reputations. Stephanie, welcome.
Ed, thank you so much for having me. It is a thrill to be here with you today.
Tell me this, in your experience, how widespread a problem are we talking about here, where communications advisors are shut out of the decision-making process?
Well, I have some good news, which is you're seeing more and more companies with a CCO or a Chief Communications Officer, and I find that extremely encouraging, but there isn't enough of them. I really look at communications as the keeper of the image, the keeper of the reputation. All other lines of business have a P&L attached to them, and they have very specific agendas and goals. And there are very few people in an organization that are charged with protecting a group's reputation as much as communications. Communications has a natural aptitude to seeing around corners and seeing what problems are going to arise, and ensuring that communications professionals are sitting at the strategy table from the very beginning is really an important step to preventing unforeseen errors and preventable errors.
Let's get to some of the why questions, the basic questions about this. What bottom line risks does a company face when it neglects to consider how its communications will land with the public?
Communications is a very interesting function in an organization. It serves both internal and external audiences. It's critical for communicators to understand the external communities that are impacted by an organization's activities, the customers that company may have. So they have a deep understanding of what's going to land well with those really important stakeholders and what's not. And that is reason one to have communicators at the table, is that they have an innate understanding of who you are serving on a multitude of levels. It could very well be marketing knows customers, HR knows employees, but communications fully understands how those people intersect, because they have eyes on both of those different audiences. They're the only ones that have that. And I think that's what makes it a critical strategic decision to have comms at the decision-making table.
And I'm glad you emphasized the word strategic, because this is more than just calling in your communicator to say, should we write a news release? Should we issue a statement? It's getting involved with the strategy too, isn't it?
Absolutely. We do a lot of simulations with companies, and it's a really interesting, and I'm not going to lie, kind of fun thing to be able to dream up all sorts of crises that could befall an organization as we run people through scenarios. And the ones that are the most intricate, and the one, quite honestly, the simulations that have the best results are those that involve multitudes of organizations. Because everyone, if you think of an industry that is highly regulated, pharmaceuticals, telecoms, a huge part of any external communication is always the regulatory and legislative response. So if Comms doesn't have an eye on Wall Street and customer base and government affairs. Something can go awry with one word being out of place, but comms has the power to bring all of those perspectives together and ensure that each angle is factored in to any step forward.
It seems that some companies automatically default to letting the lawyers make the call regarding those pivotal decisions on how to communicate with the public. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with turning it over to just the lawyers?
Well, I think that it's really something that has to be a symbiotic partnership. There are very real reasons for having lawyers involved. There's also there are really smart people on the comms team, and a good comms program and a well functioning external affairs organization will ensure that there is an opportunity for legal and comms to work together on a multitude of issues, and not just when something pops up as a problem, that they build relationships. I was talking a second ago about simulations, that when you do a simulation for a crisis communication situation, that the lawyers are involved. There is a real understanding that needs to be built between legal and communications, because a lot of times, as you referenced, they have to walk hand in hand as they try to handle a problem. A number of years ago, I worked with a lawyer who graduated from Northwestern Law School, very, very smart guy. And he told me that he had to take a law for marketers, and it would basically talk to them about how to talk to marketers. As you know, communicators are not marketers. And I really feel like that's the class that should be taught in law school, because we are different. But it was a real effort, and a good faith effort by these law schools to prepare these lawyers to walk into organizations and how they run.
What are some other ways on the job where communications, and be it legal or be it government affairs, how can you forge a relationship that evolves into a good, strong, solid, trusting working relationship?
I think it's just building the relationships. Communicators, we're naturally friendly. We naturally like to talk to people, and it's going to have to be our first step. I think as communicators, it's on us to build the bridges and to build the trust. Set up different events that you can all get together. Ask your government affairs folks to come and brief your communications people, because that's a critical, important part of this too, is understanding what your partners do, not just having them understand what you do. And it makes you a better communicator if you have a level of understanding about what your partners do. I think it's government affairs. I think it's legal. I think it's IT. As we know now, there are so many critical cyber incidents that happen. Understanding how IT thinks, making sure IT understands how you think, because you are going to be working jointly if there is a cyber attack. So making sure that all these different organizations understand what you do. And I think it's also important, we just talked a second ago about the difference between marketing and communications. Make sure marketing understands what communications does, and make sure that communications understands what marketing does. Because I think the one thing that I stress for any C-suite I speak to is you have to have a common message. The common message has to come for any organization. There has to be a message that is reinforced. And the message needs to be reinforced through marketing, needs to be reinforced through all of your HR notices. It needs to be reinforced through your annual statements. It needs to be reinforced through your sustainability. The message that your company has, that your organization has, should be reflected in everything you do, right down to your email signature. And the people that are responsible for holding that message are communicators.
Right, broadly and consistently throughout the entire organization, no question. We'll be back with Stephanie Craig and her views on getting that seat at the decision-making table in a moment. First, a quick reminder. How would you like a free copy of my new book, Insider Strategies for the Confident Communicator? presentations, media interviews, advocacy campaigns. The book contains the strategies you need in bite-sized form. Just visit barkscom.com. That's BARKSCOMM.com and sign up to receive your complimentary copy with my best wishes. Back now with Stephanie Craig and some advice for senior communications executives. Stephanie, when we talk about getting that seat at the decision-making table, it has been my observation over the years that many communicators bring this upon themselves. They fear delivering hard truth to the top brass. How often have you seen this in your consulting endeavors?
Well, and I have to be quite frank, is that as a recovering political communicator, talking up has never been a problem. And I think that I think when you move from politics and to business, the biggest challenge is making people understanding what you do has value. And that was something that really struck me hard, I think, when I moved from politics to business, because as we both know, politics, comms is king. And so when I really walked into these rooms, and I had to basically make that explanation that what I do, what the comms people we are consulting with do has a real impact. It is a cost to a business. It is not a revenue to a business, but make a mistake and it is very costly. And as I like to talk about frequently, an organization's reputation is on the low side, estimated to be 30% of their value. At the high side, 50 to 55% of an organization's value is their reputation. So having the people that is their job to protect and build that asset at the table is a case that needs to be made. And I think as communicators, we have to really believe in the power of what we do and make the case to anybody that will listen.
And what about that communications officer who hasn't had the benefit of being in politics? They came in through some other channel. What specific advice can you offer those folks who again fear that they might even lose their job if they're viewed as the bearer of bad news?
I think we're always bearers of bad news when it comes to comms. We are the ones that bring the prickly reporter question to the table, but make sure that you come with not only the problem, but the solution. I know more brilliant communicators than I can count. And each and every one of them knows more than just how to put together a great press release. Demonstrate that aptitude, demonstrate knowledge, demonstrate that you are interested in the rest of the business and willing to learn. And I think that serves you both as a trusted advisor, a term that we use within Kith, but also it serves you as to do your job because you're building those bridges. People notice that type of thing, and you quickly become a resource for the leadership. And even if you don't come in at the head of the table, I really think that if you are a strong, capable, interested communicator, you can quickly climb the ranks.
Now, you're a consultant in the communications realm, and so am I. So with that full disclosure out of the way, let me ask you this. How can these internal communicators leverage the consultants they bring on board to navigate these situations where they're trying to gain some sway within the C-suite?
Let me just flatline it. Trust them. I think that there are some consultants that are brought in for extra hands, but if you are bringing in high-level consultants, as we are at Kith, trust us. We are there to listen to you and to support you and to work with you, but we also bring an expertise to the table that can make you better. There's not a consultant I know that wants to walk in and take a communicator's job. We're there to help you. We're there to help your organization. Let us.
Hear, hear. Stephanie, what else would you like to tell us?
I think it's being a communicator is fun. And I'm of the age where I know Bridget Jones' Diary. And none of us are just the people that fanny around with press releases. Communication is important, especially in today's day and age. Communication is fast, it's instantaneous. So having a strong strategic communicator at your table is going to make an organization better. Don't make them fight for the position, because they're good at their jobs and they're going to benefit you. And as a leader of an organization, you want to be operating at your highest levels, and bringing in the communications team is going to help you do that.
Stephanie, you've opened up a lot of avenues for additional conversation here. What's the best way for listeners to get in touch with you?
And thank you so much. If anybody wants to shoot me an email, and I apologize, my name is hard to hear. So if we want to just put this into the caption anywhere, it is S as in Stephanie, Craig, CRAIG at Kith, KITH.co. CO, no M on ours.
And indeed, we will put that in the show notes, fear not. So thanks to Stephanie Craig for sharing her insights about why communicators need to be part of the corporate decision-making process here on C-Suite Blueprint Radio. This is Ed Barks. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to C-Suite Blueprint Radio with Ed Barks. Check out the show notes on the C-Suite Blueprint blog. While you're there, comment on this episode by sharing your thoughts in the Leave a Reply box. To learn how Ed can help you reach your business and public policy goals, visit barkscom.com. That's BARKSCOMM.com. Tune in again soon here on C-Suite Blueprint Radio.